So here is our wonderful new Zoomer TV series, and we just had a wonderful physician talked all about the virus, and now what we're going to do is we're going to have Chandler Finley, who is an immigration attorney and also deals in a lot of other things as an attorney, and he's with the big firm Wilson Elser, Moskowitz, Edelman, and Dicker, LLP. And Chandler Finley and his wife Stefania Finley have quite a practice because they've been doing this for many years, and they help immigrants and people who need to be admitted or to become citizens. And so I asked Chandler to come on today as one of our guinea pigs with our new Zoomer TV. Because I was curious. I know that a lot of theaters have had to close down, and I know that he represents out in Wellington, the Polo Club has a lot of course, the grooms and the riders and the horses, and they were here, he said, in the winter getting ready for their performances, and now they're still here. So I said, okay, Chandler, tell us what they're doing.
Okay, so hi, thank you for inviting me to the new Zoomer TV. It looks great. So we represent polo players and equestrian competition riders in Wellington every year from December through April. We've been representing the polo and equestrian players and their crews for the last 30 years here in Wellington. We have an office in Wellington. We have a Miami office and an office in Wellington, and so we handle most of the people directly in Wellington area. It's interesting, there's two parts to the Wellington Equestrian and Polo Center. There's equestrians are the riders that do dressage and jumping the walls and jumping the traps and all those kind of things. And then you have the dressage, which is the horses that trot and dance and move their feet in different directions. Those are two separate types of competition. And then you have the polo fields. There are about 70 polo fields out in Wellington.
Really?
And there's also 3 major clubs, and the clubs also have their own 4 or 5 polo fields around each club. And so there's about 250,000 people that come to Wellington just for the season from December through April. And that includes the players, the polo players and equestrian riders. They all bring their grooms and horse trainers, people that take care of the horses and that keep training the horses. And they bring managers, and like, for instance, a polo team is 4 players. So a team, each polo player might have a minimum of 5 horses. They usually have maybe 10 to 20 horses each. So when you have 4 players, you're talking about maybe potential of having 80 horses.
Okay, wait, stop. So how do they get them here, Chandler?
Well, a lot of the teams are comprised of different countries. Some are American. You might have a team of 4 players, 1 American, 2 from Argentina, and 1 from England. And so the guys from Argentina or England, they bring their horses with them. They fly them in like cargo on a plane, on a big 747. They fly them in. They land in Miami. They have to go through quarantine in Miami because of the quarantine for regular animals. Anyway, not COVID-19 quarantine yet for animals. And then they will, after quarantine, they bring the horses up to Wellington, put them in a pasture, and then you should see the barns and the homes in Wellington. Sometimes you don't know the difference between the home and the barn. The barns are so beautiful. And the horses are all $100,000 horses. So if you have, 10 horses, you're talking about $1 million of horses on the plane. And there's even a groom. A groom is usually someone from Argentina or Mexico or Latin countries that's worked with these horses and the rider for many years. They are actually on the plane in the cargo hall with the horses while they're flying.
Oh my goodness!
Because these horses, they have to make sure they're calm. They might be sedated a little bit, but they have to take care of them while they're on the plane. The horses are standing up on the plane, I understand, when they fly. So that's quite interesting. And usually what happens is they all come in December because the tournaments start in January, but they bring them in December, set up the horses, get them accustomed to the grounds in Wellington, everything, and also for competitions in the equestrian. And then the riders will come in and they'll start, competing with the horses.
But wait a minute, where do you come into all this now? So how does that work?
What we do is for immigration purposes, all these people from Argentina, for polo, about 70-80% of the polo players are from Argentina, the top players. There's a lot of American players, but the world's top competition players come from Argentina. It's one of the second national sport in Argentina behind soccer in Argentina. Polo. They have polo stadiums all over. Like we have football stadiums. They have polo stadiums in Argentina. And so we do the visas for them. We have a visa for the players, the competition, then their crew. So if they each have a horse trainer and 2 grooms, or maybe more, we have to get visas for all of them as a team and group to come to the United States to compete here. For the equestrians, usually it's just one equestrian who's riding the one horse, or they may have 2 or 3 horses, but that's usually they come with only 1 or 2 horses to do the dressage competition or the jumping competitions. And maybe you've seen, sometimes on ESPN2, they have some of the competitions, and they're also qualifying for the dressage and equestrian. They qualify for the Olympics, which was supposed to be also in Japan this year in July. That's been postponed also. And that will, so we had a couple of equestrians who qualified. There was one from Ecuador who was here competing in Wellington. He qualified, had enough wins to qualify for Olympics, but that got the invitation, of course, but that's been postponed also because of COVID. So everybody comes here in December. They're all ready to go January. They have tournaments January, February, March, and April. So every month is a series, like a set of round robins, a set of tournaments, and they're also worth a lot of money. There's maybe $1-2 million for the winners of the team or the equestrian competitors, and then they're ready to compete. They're all here. The Wellington is busy with players and also the people that come watch. The attendance is very high. They come to watch all the games and everything. So that's what we do. We do the visas for everybody, and the questions we do individually. Most of them a lot of them from Ireland, from England, from Belgium, and of course Canada, Mexico, and Latin America as well. For equestrian, it could be everywhere. A lot of Americans competing in the equestrian competitions also. We also do the visas for some of the judges that are also there to judge the competitions. We do the visas for the referees for the polo games. You have refs on the horses also. And so we do a lot of the visas for most of the foreigners that are here in Wellington. We're one of the only.
So now what? So what happened, Chandler, when the virus came?
Well, of course. I mean, they played some games in January, and in February they started to still play. But when the stay-home orders came down, the state was closing everything down. They had to stop all the games, just like the national games here, the NBA, football, baseball, everything just had to stop in America. So those games also had to stop. They stopped everything and said they would postpone everything until a later time. But now it's been basically postponed until next year. So they won't really have the competition in Wellington this year. It'll skip, and maybe they'll have a competition in California, maybe one in New York when the seasons change. There is a summer games and there are winter games, summer games in the north that they might play in New York, but at this point everyone's gone home. All the Argentines went back to Argentina polo, and the Belgians and British and Irish, they all left. A lot of Americans that were here, they all went back home and are all over the place, from Kentucky, North Carolina, Virginia, or where a lot of horse ranches are, in New York, California, Wyoming, all those places. But right now what's happened is they all left really fast, and they left all their horses here, and they left a lot of the grooms and trainers that are here. So a lot of them came on short-term visas. So we've been extending their visas, one. And then also they, like one of the teams that had like 80 horses, they took as many horses as they could with them in the rush to get out of here, but they left about 30 horses here. And so they left a couple of grooms to watch the horses, and they check on them every day. But the horses are basically left out in the pasture, in the fields, because they're not competing. They can't leave. They can't travel right now. There's no flights, and the people don't want to travel with the horses. The same thing about traveling with the staff and crews. They can't travel. They can't leave. So everybody's stuck here. It's a big, big problem. Hopefully when things start opening up again, maybe they can, travel again with the horses. And there's big tournaments. Usually the major tournaments in Argentina are, for instance, in November. So they'll certainly want to get all their horses back to Argentina in November. Also for other tournaments in Europe. It's been a real problem, obviously. Like everyone else, they are stuck here. Some of them, of course, are not being employed because the farms and sponsors that were paying for all the tournaments are it takes $1 million to spend on all those horses and all the people and sponsor for the equestrian and the polo. Sponsors are not here anymore. They left, and the sponsorship money is not there anymore. So a lot of the people are basically also unemployed, though they came here with a visa, but they can't work for anyone else, and they are waiting for their sponsors are paying some of the grooms just to watch the horses, and everybody else left. So that's really
horrible. I don't think anybody realizes this. This isn't a common situation. We talked about, as you said, football and baseball and everything and the theaters, but I'm so glad you're here to talk about this. This isn't something that anybody even knows or thinks about, Chandler. So this has been something that you've had to really get on top of, it sounds like.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's usually, it's amazing, about maybe $600 million is brought to Palm Beach County with all these horses and all the tournaments and the hotels and the food and everything else, transportation, and it all had to abruptly stop. So that has impacted Palm Beach County a lot. It's impacted us as well. We do a lot of visas and bring a lot of people here. We prepared it all in advance. So they were already here, so we did our job already. But now we're trying to get people out of here, to set up new visas for people to come back when the season changes. It's all these international people come here for these tournaments, and now they're either stuck here, or they're trying to go back. Some people are going back with the farms when they go back to Connecticut, where their horses go back to New York or the Virginias or the Carolinas. They're just going back with them to get out of here. They don't even have a place to stay. There's certainly not enough hotels and places to stay in the houses to keep everybody here. And that's also affected a lot of the farmhouses that were rented for all these. We help them a lot of times with that, with the leases for the farms. They come in, they'll rent a whole farm with 2 polo fields out in Wellington, and everybody left, and they probably don't want to pay the rent either. They're leaving, and that's how it's a real disaster as everything else.
As I was thinking, as you were talking though about this, now we're coming into hurricane season, and hopefully they can get out of here. If not, we're going to have a problem with the horses with the hurricane season. You hadn't even thought about that.
No, I haven't thought about that yet. Hopefully if the state starts opening up and they have more flights, they can leave. I don't know if they'll be leaving with the horses. They might just leave the horses here. But then again, also it's not only leaving the U.S., but it's where they're going. They have to open up the airports and where they're going also. So maybe they have a flight booked, but they can't actually take off and leave if they're having more problems in the other countries. So now immigration understands that there are a lot of people that are stuck here, and they have some special provisions to email and to call in when people are stuck here. If their visa is expiring all of a sudden because they're stuck, they're able to get extensions of 30 days or longer so that they're able to stay during this time and wait for the crisis to be over.
I can't, this is such interesting information. Only because I know you have an office in Wellington and that you've been handling a lot of this, I would not normally think about this. And it's probably, you're just talking about it here. It'd be interesting to talk about some of the people who are now have left and what they're feeling. It must be a terrible thing because the horses are very valuable and they have to make sure that nothing happens to them. And they have the responsibility. They don't have the money coming in now, as rich as they may be. And what you said was a very good point. I know someone here who's trying to get into Monaco. He's in Miami, and he can't because they're not letting him fly into Europe.
Right, they can't leave, so they have to stay here. There are, of course, there were some private planes at the time because you have some very wealthy owners and sponsors. Some of the top equestrian and polo competitors are very wealthy, and they had their own planes, so they were able to leave on their own planes. But everyone else was really stuck on their own here, and it's just something that will continue for a while. We're trying to take care of as many of our clients as we can by getting extensions for them and making sure they're not overstaying their time, because then that will cause they won't be able to come back next year if they violate their visa at this time.
Oh, really? Yeah,
and
that's interesting, Chandler, that you're dealing with that. And I know you're dealing with so many other situations with immigration, but that's a big industry. And I was thinking about that, and you're right. What are they going to do for food? And, if they're left here, in a sense, where are they going to work if no one cares about them?
That's right. And it's just that they bring in so many people for the season, and then they're all just stuck here. They were left, and their owners and riders, they left, and a lot of the grooms are here. But, it's a disaster to everyone for this COVID-19. That's been a real major issue. And now for them to go back, they just have to make their plans. And that's how it's working here.
So
a lot of people have decided, if they had other visas, they could apply for something else, but even they can't find work. That's the problem is if they were able to work, they can't even find work. So now there's even been some that have worked here. They had paid taxes before, and they even received the stimulus check from the U.S. government. And there are some provisions that even if you're a worker here and you've paid taxes before and you're in the system, you might get the stimulus check also because you're like everybody else. You're legally here. You're, as they say, a legal alien. And so you're able to still get that stimulus check because you lost your job also. It's
amazing.
An interesting thing.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you were able to do that with us today, Chandler. And I know that you're very busy and we don't want to take any more of your time, but we certainly appreciated that. That was a rare opportunity because most people have no idea about it and they don't have anyone as experienced as you with it. So anyway, I think the best thing that we can do then is when they come back is to support them and go out there. Thanks to you, I've been to some of those polo games and they're fun. But Wellington is the big one here in Florida. Isn't it the biggest one now in Florida? The Wellington polo?
Yes, Wellington has it's the most important international polo competition, second to Argentina, and it's certainly the number one in the United States. And for all the equestrians, it's the most important one. They just spent $20 million on creating the new equestrian facility. They call it the Winter Equestrian Festival, and that's new in this area, and it's attracting riders and equestrians from all over the world and also from all over the United States. So it's definitely the number one and most important. They call it the Wimbledon of the equestrian world here because it's really the number one for all that kind of competition. It's very exciting when it's on. We're sorry we missed it this year and everyone closed down.
Right, and so the horses, just going back to the horses, thank goodness we haven't heard about any horses having any, COVID, having any virus. That would be something we don't want to see ever, but we did see those, I
That's
think,
right.
a couple of
Sometimes,
lions or something.
yeah, well, sometimes the horses get they have the West Nile mosquito disease that they catch sometimes or things like that. And so whenever they have so many horses here, very expensive horses, they're already always checking their medical status and making sure that they're healthy, and that's a very big part of it. There's a lot of veterinarians also in the area taking care of horses and all that kind of stuff, not only people, but a lot of horse medical centers are here um, in Wellington.
Do they bring their
Um,
own vets, actually? Do they do
Sometimes
that?
they might bring a vet if they have a big team and they bring a vet to everyone. But usually the vets that are here are really well known, and they've been proven and accepted by the associations, and they've just been here for so long that and they actually prefer to have the medical standards here in the United States, especially for veterinarians also services that they use the services here when they come. There's a lot of them
Let
in
me,
Wellington, actually.
I'll just announce again, this is Chandler Finley. He's an attorney at law with Wilson, Elser, Moskowitz, Edelman, and Dicker LLP. And his office is in Miami as well as in Wellington. And if you want to get in touch, you can go to the website's wilsonelser.com, wilsonelser.com. It's been a really good discussion, Chandler. And so one thing I wanted to just share with you is that Chandler's daughter, Jasmine, was on our radio show last week, and she was using Zoom to talk about what it's been like to be homeschooled using Zoom. That was a very interesting thing because that was being done from your home, wasn't it, Chandler? And the kids all had their own desks, and Sophonia's at a certain place. And so everyone's experiencing a whole new way of life.
Yes, I think this crisis has pushed the whole world 20 years in advance, making us do everything on the computer, like the Zoom TV now. Everything is, I've been having meetings on my FaceTime, my phone, or on the computer. I'm meeting clients. They don't come to my office so much anymore.
Oh.
We've been, mailing papers out a lot now. Even notary services. You can do a notary service by video. So if you sign something and I watch you, then you send the paper to me, I can notarize it and I get the papers as long as I certify that I actually watched you sign it. So they're doing a lot of things like that in this crisis time. And also for that, I mean, the notary stuff is like for real estate closings. There's been a lot of closings we've been handling even during this time where we've had people from Italy that were still had signed contracts before the virus started, and now they're still wanting to, of course, close. The people want to sell there, or they want to buy, and so we've had to have documents go back and forth by only in the mail. We close it in the mail and online like this, like a Zoom kind of thing. So that's changing the whole practice around everywhere. I mean, the courts are still open a little bit, and they're doing everything by Zoom as well with the judge and the witnesses, and but they're
But you
not
saw the
doing jury
Supreme Court,
trials. They're only
and you saw the Supreme Court.
court,
We've never
hearings
heard
and
or saw them
with the
before. You
judge
know that.
only.
You know that the Supreme Court. We now got to hear their people.
Yes.
That was very interesting. Right now, this is my next question. Do you think we'll ever go back to the other way, or now we've been freed? It's a whole new spirit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's some things, you have to, the jury has to understand the person. It's harder by video. They want to see their mannerisms and whether they are truthful or not. So jury, it's going to take a long time before they do that on video. They want to see the person live, but certainly judges and the law can be taken just on video. We file all the papers now electronically anyway. And so they're already doing that. A lot of it is all email, all video now. And I think it is definitely the way of the future for a lot of government services and everything. I mean, all the unemployment people having to go to the unemployment office and fill out a piece of paper with a pen and have it then entered by the service person. Why don't they just do it online now? Like they're
Right.
doing it everywhere. They're going to.
Yeah, I
right?
know. It's exciting. Well, Chandler, thank you very much. We really appreciated your being on our Zoomer TV, our whole new way of sharing our clients and our participants, and good luck with the other. And we'll talk to you, I'm sure, again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
All
for
right,
us
stay
also.
safe.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.